The Mechanical Bride, A Folklore of Industrial Man, by Marshall McLuhan. Chapter 1. Front Page. What's the score here? Why is a page of news a problem in orchestration? How does the jazzy, ragtime discontinuity of press items link up with other modern art forms? To achieve coverage from China to Peru, and also simultaneity of focus, can you imagine anything more effective than this front-page cubism? You never thought of a page of news as a symbolist landscape? These are only a very few of the questions raised even by the quiet front page of the New York Times. Many further questions are raised by the more sensational newspapers. But any paper today is a collective work of art, a daily book of industrial man, an Arabian Nights entertainment in which 1,001 astonishing tales are being told by an anonymous narrator to an equally anonymous audience. It is on its technical and mechanical side that the front page is linked to the techniques of modern science and art. Discontinuity is in different ways a basic concept both of quantum and relativity physics. It is the way in which a Toynbee looks at civilizations, or a Margaret Mead at human cultures. Notoriously, it is the visual technique of a Picasso, the literary technique of James Joyce. But it would be a mistake to join the chorus of voices which wails without intermission that discontinuity is chaos come again. It is irrationalism. It is the end. Quantum and relativity physics are not a fad. They have provided new facts about the world, new intelligibility, new insights into the universal fabric. Practically speaking, they mean that henceforth this planet is a single city. Far from making for irrationalism, these discoveries make irrationalism intolerable for the intelligent person. They demand much greater exertions of intelligence and a much higher level of personal and social integrity than have existed previously. In the same way, the technique of Toynbee makes all civilizations contemporary with our own. The past is made immediately available as a working model for present political experiment. Margaret Mead's Male and Female illustrates a similar method. The cultural patterns of several societies, quite unrelated to one another or to our own, are abruptly overlayered in Cubist or Picasso style to provide a greatly enriched image of human potentialities. By this method, the greatest possible detachment from our own immediate problems is achieved. The voice of reason is audible only to the detached observer. And it is equally so with the popular modern press, despite all of its faults. That huge landscape of the human family which is achieved by simply setting side by side disconnected items from China to Peru presents a daily image both of the complexity and similarity of human affairs which, in its total effect, is tending to abolish any provincial outlook. Quite independently of good or bad editorial policies, the ordinary man is now accustomed to human interest stories from every part of the globe. The sheer technique of worldwide news gathering has created a new state of mind which has little to do with local or national political opinion, so that even the frequent sensational absurdity and unreliability of the news cannot annul the total effect, which is to enforce a deep sense of human solidarity. Certainly, if an observer were to consider only the quality of intellectual analysis shown in a particular item or editorial, he would have cause for gloom. Certain habits of mind have led to a natural exaggeration about the value and even necessity of correct views. The same habits of mind lead to the condemnation of modern art because of its lack of a message. These habits blind people to the real changes of our time. Conditioned in this way, people have been taught to accept opinions and attitudes of the press. But the French symbolists, followed by James Joyce and Ulysses, saw that there was a new art form of universal scope present in the technical layout of the modern newspaper. Here is a major instance of how a byproduct of industrial imagination, a genuine agency of contemporary folklore, led to radical artistic developments. To the alerted eye, the front page of a newspaper is a superficial chaos which can lead the mind to attend to cosmic harmonies of a very high order. Yet, when these harmonies are more sharply stylized by a Picasso or a Joyce, they seem to give offense to the very people who should appreciate them most. But that is a separate story. There are many places in this book where these issues will recur, but it seemed best to raise them first in connection with the press. They are not questions that can be answered. They are merely typical of that very common condition of industrial man in which he lives amid a great flowering of technical and mechanical imagery, of whose rich human symbolism he is mainly unconscious. Industrial man is not unlike the turtle that is quite blind to the beauty of the shell which it has grown on its back. In the same way, the modern newspaper isn't seen by the reporter except from the point of view of its mushy, sensual content, its pulsating, romantic glamour. The reporter doesn't even know there's a beautiful shell above him. He grows the shell, unwittingly, subhumanly, biologically. This is not even the voice, but only the feel of the turtle. This inside point of view would coincide with the practical point of view of the man who would rather eat the turtle than admire the design on its back. The same man would rather dunk himself in the newspaper than have any aesthetic or intellectual grasp of its character and meaning. The incorrigible dunker would perhaps do well to skip the next few pages. The strictly inside or unconscious consumer point of view of industrial folklore is neatly shown in the following item, which appeared in a provincial newspaper. See selves on video, then 2 die in chair. Chicago, April 21st, 1950, from the Associated Press. 2 condemned murderers saw themselves on television last night and a few hours later died in the electric chair. The doomed men were filmed in death row yesterday afternoon. The film was then put on a 7 p.m. newsreel show and viewed by the men on a set loaned them by the warden. This situation is a major feat of modern news technique. Hotspot news with a vengeance. What a thrill these men must have got from being on the inside of a big inside story. Participating in their own audience participation, they were able to share the thrill of the audience that was being thrilled by their imminent death. This is an illustration of the situation of those in the modern world who contribute mindlessly and automatically to the huge technical panorama which they never raise their eyes to examine. In the following pages, various sections of that panorama will be centered for conscious scrutiny.